Good afternoon, everyone. I apologize for our delay and technical difficulties. Good afternoon again, and my name is Liz Petrelli. I am your annuity marketer here at Underwriters Marketing Service. Here at Underwriters Marketing Service, we are your back office support for life, long-term care, and fixed and FIA business. We have been in business going on 37 years, and we are constantly striving to provide you, our agents, reps and advisors with education, support for your business, and marketing tools to help you continue to grow and to develop. Before we actually introduce our speaker, I want to go over a couple of reminders. This webinar is for financial professionals, so if you are not one, please disconnect at this time. This webinar also is being recorded, so if you wish to not be recorded, please disconnect at this time. On the right side, you see a little chat bar. If you have a question, we will answer them as many as we can at the end. Just type it in and we'll look for it. At this time, everyone is muted, and I'm going to turn the presentation over to Allianz Zach Gerlach. He's our internal wholesaler, and he has been with the company a number of years. Zach, are you ready to go?
I am all ready.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me here with you guys today to go over one of our newest features, Auto Lock. Can everyone see my presentation screen yet, or does it still need to be shared with everyone?
They should be able to see it. If anybody doesn't see it or is having difficulties, please let me know. Just type that in the little chat bar, okay?
Perfect.
We'll assume that they can at the moment.
Awesome. So kind of to get rolling here, once again, I'll say just thank you, Liz and Donna, for having me on to speak with you guys. I am one of your internal wholesalers over here at Allianz. So whenever anything Allianz fixed index annuity related comes up, you can always feel free to reach out to me, whether it's my direct line or my email. Always feel comfortable giving me a call when it comes to some extra Allianz support. And before I get into Auto Lock as well, July is a great time to look at Allianz currently, because we did have a bunch of positive changes that I would also love to go over with you guys. So some of our products, like our 222, just saw a bonus increase up to 25%. Our 360 saw a cash value credit bonus increase up to 50%, and across numerous other changes as well. Just started in July here. And now today, what we're here to talk about is one of our newer features, Auto Lock. Now, what this started out with was a manual lock. And if we go on to the next slide here, you'll see that manual lock gave you the opportunity to track your index options that you selected, whether it's for whatever crediting method you picked. And for the lock, of course, it had to be the participation rate. You could track it, see how it's performing, and if you like the return you're at, you could give us a call or go right onto your client's personal profile and lock in that return. Now what we've introduced is Auto Lock. This is going to allow you to set both an upper and a lower target. So if it hits that number at any point in the crediting period, it'll automatically lock in that return, which should help so you don't have to look at your screen, track the numbers so closely. You can set it and use that as a strategy when planning what kind of returns you are looking to get on your fixed index annuity with your clients. So up next, we're going to go a little bit over the benefits of Auto Lock. As mentioned, it provides the convenience of locking in a preferred index interest rate without having to manually monitor each contract. Once the index is locked.
Excuse me, Zach. I'm not seeing it go forward. I'm stuck on the benefits of Auto Lock, so your screens are not progressing.
Oh boy, it's not changing at all?
No, it's just on the first one. And now it's not there at all.
Okay. How about now?
Okay, there you go.
We're back in business?
We got 2 ways to lock in again. That's where we are. Okay.
Perfect. All right. Technical difficulties are always fun when you're figuring them out on the fly here. But yeah, so I'll back up a little bit then. So like I was mentioning, where we started out was manual lock. And now the new feature that we added is auto lock. So with manual lock, you did have to track it on your own, see what the return was at. If you liked it, you could go on the website or give us a call to lock in that return. Now with auto lock, you can set both upper and lower targets to activate an automatic lock so you can set if you want it at 6%, your index hits 6%, it'll automatically lock in that return. On the other side, if say you're up 7%, you can set a downside at 5, so if things end up going the other way, it would automatically stop you out at that 5%. So this is going to be available on all of our current fixed index annuity contracts. And one thing that's actually really nice is that if when you purchase an Allianz fixed index annuity with the original manual lock, it will now have the auto lock feature added to it. All right, and now if we're looking at the benefits of auto lock, and like as we mentioned, it gives you the convenience of locking in that interest rate without having to manually monitor each contract. Once the index value is locked in, that index value and locked interest rate are protected from any negative index performance until the end of the crediting period. And to make it easier to find allocations that are available to be locked, we do have a very nice index lock report, and this report is available across your entire book of business. All right, so let's take a look at where this can come into play. And a couple of things I'll mention too before we go into these hypothetical examples, just so you know. The allocation options that have the auto lock and index lock capabilities are our participation rate options, which you will see Bloomberg will have a crediting with a par rate, and so will PIMCO and BlackRock. All right. So 3 things to know about your index interest rate percentage. Let's start with a few things to keep in mind here. The index interest rate percentage is referred to as the percentage return on the allocation. This rate has already been increased or reduced for the participation rate. And if an interest bonus is applied to the accumulation value, like our 360 product, the displayed indexed rate percentage will also include this bonus. And for fixed index annuities with the protected income value, the return credited will not display the bonus to that credit, which we will talk more on later. So essentially what that's saying is when you look at a client's profile, you'll be able to see what the current return is at, and it will show you what the index is that would actually be credited to your client's accumulation value. And like some of our products, they have bonuses to the protected income value. It will not take that into account, but it would take into account the participation rate of your current crediting option. All right, so here's a couple examples here. So up here we have Mark and Rosa. They both own an Allianz FIA contract. Their financial professional, Maria, recently talked to them about setting targets on their existing contract to give them the opportunity to lock gains automatically. They set the upper target at 6% and will set the lower target at 2%. They are free to adjust their target index interest percentage either up or down as many times as you wish, as long as the auto lock has not been activated. And that's a key point because at any point you can set that target. You can set that upper target in the beginning of the year, midway through the year. And for that lower target, of course, you can't set a lower target that's higher than the current index performance. But at any point, you have the ability to move them around. And you can set one, you could set both, or you don't have to set any at all. So you have that flexibility to do what you would like and pick what target, whether it's the upper lower you want to set or both. All right. So now during Mark and Rosa's crediting period, the index interest rate increases to 6.05%. This increase activates an upper target of 6% to kick in. Because the end of day interest index interest rate percent was 6.05, they will lock in that 6.05 versus the 6% for the remainder of the crediting period. And just what's that saying is if it goes over the 6% of your target and it ends the day above the 6, you're actually going to get that higher value, the 6.05. it won't take you back down to 6% because it's all based on that end of day value for these index options. Now, the other side of that is if say during the day the index was actually at 5.95, so it's 5/100ths less than that 6% target, it actually would not log in because it would not be ending the day at your targeted rate. And then it mentioned here as well that that locked in number is what you would get at the end of your crediting period. So now no matter what happens after this point, whether it goes up or down, you know you're locked in at that 6.05% if that was the case here. And then it will reset the index value beginning the next crediting period. All right. So now when you're setting an upper target, the upper target must be greater than the current index interest percentage, and targets can be set as soon as 1 day after the contract issuance or completion of the subsequent crediting period. And of course, that upper target can be changed or canceled within the crediting period, provided that the lock has not been executed. And one thing we've seen reps talk about with this quite a lot is if you have a meeting with a client or you have annual reviews to go over a policy, it's an opportunity to discuss maybe what percent they're looking for, and that can help take some pressure off of yourself. You can talk to the client and say, would you be happy with a 5% return each year, a 6% return each year? And that's what you could set it at. And then you could be comfortable if you hit that number, you know the client will lock it in versus maybe hitting that number and then going the other way. You know, it'll get that return if it hits and closes above the set number. All right. Now, let's look at setting a lower target here. So during the next crediting period, the index interest rate saw a steady decline. Mark and Rosa set their lower limit at 2% and locking in a lowering at 2% to avoid a 0% return. Note how they set their target towards the end of the crediting period to avoid locking in that lower target early. At the end of the day on March 15th, the index value dropped to 1.95%, which activated the 2% target. Since the end of day value was 1.95, Mark and Rosa will lock into 1.95 for the remainder of the crediting period. Okay, and the same thing is vice versa compared to the upper target. Say during the crediting period you did set it at 2%. It fell below at 1.95, but then at the end of the day it ended up being at 2.05. It would not lock in that upper target, or sorry, that lower target because it did not end the business day below that 2%. And where this slide talks about index and the lower target in a little different way than I typically talk about it, because I think that when you're looking at the lower target, it can either be just as exciting or more exciting than the upper target, which you might not immediately think of as the case, because I like to think about the lower target actually as a stop loss. So say you're up 5-6% and you're doing a pretty good year, you're in a pretty good crediting year, and instead of maybe setting an upper target at like 8%, you could just let it ride out and put a lower target at maybe 4% or 5%. And that just gives you that downside protection so you don't lose the gains you've earned up to this point, but you still leave an uncapped upside potential. So I like to think of it more as a stop loss versus protecting it from 0% return. But of course, that is still an option that can be used with the lower target. And we would typically see this being used more towards the middle or halfway through a crediting period towards the end, because you do need to see some sort of return before you can even set that lower target. All right. So, and then when you're setting a lower target, that indexed interest rate percentage must be positive, like I was just mentioning. It must be lower than the current indexed interest rate before the target can be set. And the lower target, of course, like both targets, can be changed or canceled within the crediting period, provided that the lock has not been executed. All right. So some example Q&As that we might run into with the auto locks. So Can the credit be higher or lower than the targeted percentage? Yes. So like we looked at in those charts, you can see that at the close of business day is the actual index value higher or lower than you set the threshold, your client would receive more or less than the targeted amount. For example, it was set at 6% upper, it finished at 6.05, so that was the return on the statement. And on the other side, they set it at lower at 2%, it ended at 1.95, so that would be the return on the statement. And then the other side of that, it would never be lower than the high target or higher than the low target when you're using the auto lock. Here are some number of examples you can see here for those upper and lower target and what would be the ending value for the client's statement and on their policy. All right, so now let's look into actually how you would go about setting the target on your client's personal policy profile. So this is what it's going to look like where you'd be able to see the client's allocations in their policy. So after logging in, you obviously look at the client's profile and you'd be able to see where their indexes are at currently. And from there, you can see that index lock / set targets button. And then you'd go through the acknowledgements and statements, and you'd then click continue. And now in here, this is where you'd actually be able to see the upper and lower target and how you can set them. You can put in the number you would like, and you're free to change these at any point during the crediting period, of course, if the lock has not been locked already. And you can see on the far right there, you do actually still have the capability of a manual lock as well, if you still would like to use that option. All right, so now in this example, they set an upper target at 6% and a lower target of 2%. And their Bloomberg US Dynamic Balance 2ER, as well as a manual request for the PIMCO. So you can use each allocation that has the participation rate. You can do different upper, different lowers, or manual lock. So unlimited flexibility with what you would like to do with these features here. All right. And then after the targets are set, the row will show green and a warning will pop up if a manual lock is requested. If a manual lock is requested 11 months prior to the end of the crediting period, the target will be effective immediately, although you may not see the changes reflect on the website for 1 to 2 days. And what that means with that 11 months is that we do have some 2-year crediting options. So it's just making sure that you do want to lock it in before you've started the 2nd year of that crediting period. All right, and then here's what what it would look like after your request has been submitted. And if you'd like to request a manual lock after the targets have been set, clear out the upper and lower targets, and the manual lock option box will reappear. All right, and this is what it would look like once it is locked. And you'll see the date of the lock as well. All right, I think this is a really cool statistic that we have, that the average locked interest credit is at 5.8%. And that's, we do have some really nice material that goes over that as well. I'd be more than happy to send to any of you that goes over our index lock and our success with that feature. And you also have the ability to go onto our website and look up policies by their percent return. So you could go into your entire book of business on our website, put in 5% on the index lock report, and it would show you all policies that have the capability to lock in today with a return above 5%. So in that 5.8 interest lock average, just goes to show how this feature is being used and the success of it when you do have that locking capability to make sure your clients are capturing the gains that they have earned. All right. So that is what I have as far as the allocations and the index lock features go. If anyone had any questions, feel free to write them in the chat or shoot me any questions now or after. Liz and Donna, is there anything else you wanted me to add here?
Well, let's go over the questions, Zach.
Okay.
Someone wants to know if by any chance, will the feature be added to the older contracts, which I think you already told us no, like the endurance or the master decks, any opportunities for this feature to be added to those contracts?
Okay. Yeah, no, it's a good question. And unfortunately, what we have done with this new feature, I guess not unfortunately, but it is being added to all policies that were issued with the manual index lock originally. So if it did not have index lock when the policy was issued, I'd be surprised if it was something that we went back and added there. The only thing to keep in mind too, it would have to be on a participation rate strategy in order for the lock to be available as well.
Okay, and I believe that date for the auto lock feature was added May of 19.
Correct. Yep. May 2019 was when we first started to see index lock being added to new business.
Okay, I have a long question, so bear with me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to select an upper target plus the lower target, or can you just have one of them selected? So can you just have an upper and no lower, or one lower and no upper?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So you do have the ability to select one or the other. You could do an upper, you could do a lower, you could do both, and then you can also move them throughout the contract year as many times as you'd like, as long as it hasn't already been locked in.
Right. Okay.
And
Are you
you
able
don't have to use any as all as well. That's also up to you.
Okay. Are you able to get a list of active clients weekly, daily? How does that work? Is there a way for them to print it daily or weekly or monthly or?
Yep. It's actually a very nice process, pretty simple as well. I'd be more than happy to run through that with you if it's something you're interested in. I could actually do that for you as well if you'd like. It's something where it's right on our website. You go to your profile and where you have the ability to look up policies by number. If you look right above that, you'll see a blue link that says Index Lock Report. And then from there, you just be able to fill in what percent or all of your contracts with the index lock capability that you would like to see.
Okay, we'll try that when I get done. Hold on one second. Okay. If a high and low target are selected and the lower target is met, and then later in the year, the higher one is met, will the client get the higher or the lower rate of return?
Got it. So for that, whenever a lock is hit at any point, that is what the return is at the end of the year. So that's why with the lower target, we're typically going to see that being used more in the latter half of a crediting period, because if it is growing slow and steady, and say you're at month like 3 or 4 and you're up like 3%, we typically wouldn't see someone do a lower target at 2, just because your margin of error is so slim there, where you could potentially lose out on a higher upside. But of course, that's always between you and the client and what they're comfortable with as well. But at any point, if it does lock, because of the targets that you set, that first lock that you hit will be what the statement would show at the end of the year.
Okay. One second.
And if you don't mind, Liz, I'll add on to that a little bit. And that's why I mentioned earlier in the presentation about using that, a common strategy that we've heard reps talk about and use is that auto lock as a stop loss, more so if you're having a positive year in that latter half, where if you're having a good year, you're up 7-8%, you could set it at 5, so then you don't lose if it's things turn around and go the other way. You would still protect some of those gains you earned.
Exactly. I typically refer to this process as a stop loss because
Correct.
I think people in broker dealer understand that logic. Last year we had agents who were at a high, and I say agents, actually I'm talking about me. My account was up to 10%, and of course the pandemic happened, and that changed a lot of returns. So had I auto locked rate last year, I would have gotten the higher amount. But like I said, 8 months left. Sometimes if we'd had the auto lock, we could have did a stop loss and stopped it from going all the way down. I will share with the people on that I did speak with an agent yesterday who has already utilized this tool and has told me that he's already locked in 2 of his clients at 13%. So it is a valuable tool added. I'm hoping everyone utilizes it. It should never have a 0 year if you put the parameters in.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's a great feature too when you're looking at annual reviews and meeting with clients. It just gives you that extra capability to do some planning if you would like with them, and also gives you a great story. If you do lock in a return, you can use that and talk about how you were able to make sure that they got this number returned for their policy as well.
Another question, would the clients be able to access this feature themselves?
Correct. They would be able to see this on their profile. I would want to double check exactly how much capability that they have to do, but I do believe that they'd be able to see their targets, like you may have noticed in the past, that they do have the ability to look at what their allocation options are. But that's something that would be good to check on a case-by-case basis, I would say.
Yeah, just they're not able to set the parameters themselves, the client.
That's what I want to check on that before giving a concrete answer, because I would hate to say yes and then that not be 100% the case. I would want to check on that one, and I could follow up with you, Liz, and make sure it's a concrete answer there, because I don't want to give a wrong answer and then that comes back to bite someone in the butt.
Absolutely understandable. Let me double check here to see if there's any other questions. One second. Yes. All right. On that last question, I will contact the people on the call right now and let them know. We also have a couple pieces on this. The auto lock rate feature I can send out to everyone as well. And I think that wraps it up. Again, if anyone has any further questions or thinks of anything, please reach out to myself, Donna, or Zach, and we will happy to get your answers for you. And I will find that one question out. Zach, you can let me know on that.
Perfect. Thank you for having me on again today, and I look forward to working with you guys more. And if you have any questions, yeah, like Liz said, feel free to reach out to me at any time.
All right. Thank you, everyone. That concludes the call. We appreciate your time.